And welcome to the Armchair Illini podcast tonight. We have a very special guest with us as we talk some March Madness, uh, go over our brackets and such things. And as always, I've got my co-host Alex Chi with me. Alex, how are you?
Doing great, man. Excited to talk about this.
Yeah, and our special guest is from my first home of Illinois sports, covering Illinois sports, writing Illini over at Fansided. We've got Eric Bruce with us tonight. Eric, how are you?
Hey, Zach. Good to hear from you. I am doing great. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you. And again, we're just going to run down through our brackets here, kind of go with our maybe our Cinderellas and just kind of talk about what we like in each region and who we have coming out of it. So we're going to start with the South region of the bracket, which is in the top left corner. If you've got a paper bracket looking on ESPN, then it doesn't really matter, I guess. But Eric, what do you think of the South region, and what matchups do you like?
Yeah, the South region to me is probably going to be the one where if I prevail in any of my pools, it'll be because of the pick ultimately that I have here. I don't think I'll be totally alone in the pick, but it might surprise some people. I don't, the criteria I use is probably about the same as anyone else. It's like, I test. I watch a stupid amount of college basketball all year, which as you guys know, does not end up helping you at all in this stuff. And I check out Ken Palm, and I just kind of, feel my way through this thing with probably too much research. But ultimately, I like Arizona emerging from that bracket. Now, I know they're kind of only a 5-man team, but I think they're really, on fire right now, and they're super athletic, and they're just fun to watch. And it's almost like I just want to see them go because they're so much fun. I see them coming. There's one game that I think is kind of interesting that a lot of people might be picking as an upset, and that's Davidson over Kentucky.
Yeah, that was the one I was looking at.
Okay, yeah, and I did not go with that only because it's Kentucky, because there's so much talent there, and they are also playing really well right now. So the Davidson, I looked at their resume, and they've got an impressive resume, so that could happen.
Yeah, it definitely could. It's just because the Cats were so inconsistent to start. Actually, they're both Cats. So Kentucky.
A lot of Cats in this bracket.
Yeah, a lot of Cats. But Kentucky was super undisciplined. They're a super young team. They obviously got a lot of 5-stars, as they usually do, but they're just so sporadic, and you just don't know which one's going to show up. And that's a theme. That's a theme for most of these teams.
I heard Calipari say the other night that this is the youngest team he's ever had.
Right.
Which is really saying something. Like I can't remember which player it was, but somebody just turned 18 like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I think it's Diallo, the kid that tested the NBA draft. But it's just Davidson is one of the most disciplined teams out there. Bob McKellar's been there since who knows? He coached Steph Curry, and even then, when Steph Curry was there, he was still a pretty tenured coach. So they're just a disciplined team. Kentucky is not. So that's the matchup that I was looking at. But I just don't have the gall to pick that kind of an upset. Like, I already have enough upsets somewhere else that I'm not sure. But I'm leaning towards picking Kentucky just because they were hot. Like you said, they're playing good basketball and they seem to be gelling. But I don't know. I'm a little bit.
I know. It's tough.
Yeah. What do you have, Zach?
Yeah, I think there's an upset here that everyone in America has picked so far from everyone I've talked to, and that's Loyola Chicago over Miami.
Yeah.
I think that's
I'm going to buck that trend, but yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
That is
Eric, you don't have that too?
No, I don't. I did struggle with that one. It's our only team from Illinois in the tournament, and that's always sad. Frustrating, and but that was a heart kind of feeling, but ultimately I like Larinaga as a coach a lot.
Yeah.
And I think he will push them through. The next round against Tennessee, I think that'll be tougher for him, and I'll take Tennessee there. But
I'm with you there. I feel better about my pick now because I felt I was like the only one in America.
Well, we might be the only two, man.
Right. The funny thing is, the main thing that had me push Miami was seeing Mark Allstar and seeing that he came from a similar conference, averaged like 20 points, 19 points, whatever, and just stunk it up in the Big Ten. So I definitely think the conferences is a difference. Yes, Loyola is playing great basketball, but
that's right.
It's the ACC. It's the best conference in America, and I feel like talent will help out in here. I don't think obviously they're saying, "Oh, Loyola, they shoot the ball at a high level." They haven't had lottery picks in their face.
No. It's a feel good thing, and bust my bracket, please, Loyola. I would love to see them, you win, and it's almost fun too, right? When your bracket gets busted early on, because then you can just kind of sit back and enjoy it a lot more.
Oh yeah,
Agreed. What do you guys think about Virginia with the injury? I mean, I didn't have them going. I have Arizona, as I said, but that's obviously going to be troubling now that they've lost their best man off the bench, right?
Right. I actually had them right before the whole injury happened. I had them winning the whole thing, and as Zach knows, I'm actually kind of a Virginia fan.
Yeah,
I'm very partial to them, so they were my pick originally. But just seeing like DeAndre Hunter was so important to them because he was their best athlete on a very offensively struggled team. So just seeing him go down, it's hard to pick them. And then going off of what you said with Arizona, DeAndre Ayton's just a man.
Right.
It's so hard to pick against him.
And exactly. With Chairback, I mean, they're just going to be, they're just going to be unstoppable is not the right word, but they're going to be
hard to beat,
hard to contain on offense. No matter how good your D is. And also, it's interesting to be that Virginia, nobody had them in the top 25 preseason. Nobody had them. Right. Lindy's had them at number 28, but no outlet, period, had them it ranked in the top 25 from what I understand.
Right.
That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but I wonder if that's ever happened that a team that wasn't even preseason ranked at all ended up being the overall number one ranked team in the NCAA tournament. Right. That's really surprising and probably a testament, to Bennett.
Right. Definitely.
Great coaching,
Right. So I have, just to start at the top, I have UVA winning against UMBC, and then I have Creighton over Kansas State after hearing about those injuries to Dean Wade on Kansas State. I was rooting for old Bruce, but
yeah, me too.
Can't always pull for him. So UVA beats Creighton, and then I have Kentucky and Arizona in that little blockbuster, and then I have Arizona beating Kentucky. And then Arizona beating UVA, which I'm kind of hesitant about because
that's what I've got too.
Yeah, last year I picked Arizona to do quite well because they had pieces. They had Trier, they had Jackson Cartwright, they had Lowry, Zach's favorite person in the whole world.
Straight truth.
And then they stunk it up. So I'm just a little hesitant to pick them. I have Miami beating Loyola. Thankfully, Eric, you're with me on there. Tennessee. And then Tennessee beating Miami, like you. And then the Nevada-Texas one, I think, is a little underrated, too. I think that's a pretty good matchup. If Mo Bamba's back, that's interesting. But I do have Nevada. What about you guys?
Ooh, I have Loyola over Miami, unlike you two. But I have Virginia, Creighton, Kentucky, Arizona, and then Loyola versus Tennessee. And then currently I have Texas versus Cincy. I'm just a Shaka Smart guy in general. I know he struggled, but I just like my Shaka Smart. And then I have Cincy prevailing in that one. And then I've got Cincy versus Tennessee, Arizona versus Virginia, with Arizona beating Virginia and Tennessee beating Cincy. And I have Zona winning the region.
Okay. Did you guys see, by the way, that Tennessee video that they put?
Yeah, I live in Tennessee, so this is it's like madness right now because they're.
I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't seen anything.
So they put a video. I'll send it to you after this. But they put a video on the Players Tribune. It was just this cheesy, we were picked to finish last in the SEC, but look at us now. Don't pick us. And it's just a bunch of guys walking around. It's very cheesy, very cheesy. But anyways, Eric, do you have Nevada over Texas?
Yeah, so what I've got coming out of that, I've got Tennessee and Miami, Tennessee emerging from that, and I do have Nevada over Texas. I watched Texas play a few times this year. I do like Shaka Smart. I don't have anything against the Longhorns for sure. Mo Bamba is awesome. You know, they had the unfortunate illness. Was it Eric Davis?
Oh, right.
I think
Andrew, yeah, something like that.
Well, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but Nevada, you know, I'm just picking them based on the odds. Frankly, I really, you know, haven't watched a lot of Nevada play, and I've watched Texas and not been overly impressed. So it's more like, okay, Nevada's a 7, so I'm going to go with them.
Yeah.
And then I have Cincinnati, of course. I have Cincinnati emerging out of that. I've got the same exact Sweet 16 as Zach. On that one, I can't recall, you know, exactly, Alex, what you said you had coming in there, but I got Arizona and Cincinnati instead of Tennessee emerging from that. And
okay. Now I'm feeling better.
That'll be interesting. That'll be a fun game too. I mean, whether it's Virginia or Arizona coming out, or Kentucky. I mean, look, there's 3 real strong contenders there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very loaded side of the draw. But for Nevada, you'll get to see, for those listening, you'll get to see that grad transfer that hopefully will consider Illinois. Jordan Caroline, the champion native.
Yeah, right.
Right. I don't think he'll come. I don't see why in the world he'll come here besides playing in Champaign. Why would you leave a team that's cemented in the NCAA tournament with an NBA level coach to play for Underwood and the 4-14? Oh, okay. I'm being negative. Anyways.
Hey, are we going to talk about that here? Because we can talk about that. That'd be fun. Yeah, Underwood's got some work to do on the recruiting front, but I think the recruiting, you know, as a quick sidebar, I mean, that recruiting that's going on with Illinois right now, both football and basketball, seems like it's picking up some momentum.
Definitely.
You know, so yeah, some good stuff possibly coming our way there.
Hopefully. But let's move on to the East.
Yeah, for sure.
With Nova, obviously it's hard to pick against Nova and how well oiled of a machine they are. But the other matchups I think are pretty interesting. Let's start with the Virginia Tech Alabama. What do you guys have?
I am not picking against Buzz Williams. So I've got Virginia Tech beating Alabama and the 1 week wonder that is Colin Sexton.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, that's the match here. It's Colin Sexton versus Buzz Williams, and I'm going with Buzz Williams too, because I love Buzz Williams. He's one of my favorite coaches. You know, and that's a good team out of a great conference. And Alabama is shaky, but they have Colin Sexton. so
imagine
that could happen.
Yeah. Imagine having to listen to Avery Jensen's voice every day of your life. My goodness.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, but I have that pick. I thought I was pretty alone with that pick. A lot of people are picking after seeing what Colin Sexton did last week in the SEC tournament. But I went with Virginia Tech there. West Virginia, some people have had an upset alert against Murray. I actually went with West Virginia. I'm sure you guys did too.
Yeah, I'm West Virginia all the way on this pick. They're just too well oiled of a machine, I think.
Yeah.
To lose first round.
Well, another favorite coach of mine, man, Bob Huggins. Love that guy.
He terrifies me.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's kind of what, you know, Underwood's kind of from that stock, you know, and I like that in a coach. Frank Martin, you know, I like those coaches that look like they're not as big of a jerk as Bobby Knight, but they've got some of that. And I don't like Bobby Knight that much, but they've got some of that stuff in them, you know.
Yeah. There was actually one year where Underwood and Frank Martin were both assistants for Bob Huggins. So it was all three of them. So I would pay to see it back. Those 3 guys. Next we're gonna see. Sorry, Steph, did I cut you off?
I said if you think Illinois had problems with transfers of Brad Underwood, imagine that team with all 3 of those guys. That would have been tough.
Yeah,
you gotta be tough.
Wichita State versus Marshall. I'm assuming
Marshall plays Marshall.
This is chalk for you guys.
If you lose to Illinois, you're not winning in the NCAA tournament.
That Alex, you beat me to it, man. I mean, it's a trendy pick apparently, from what I've heard. Again, I don't know for sure, but I've heard some people saying Marshall is a tough team and Wichita needs to watch out. I think it might have been Billis or one of those cats on ESPN, but yeah, right. But you know, Marshall plays a fast type of basketball. There was something about Wichita State not playing that aggressive of an offensive game. By the way, update here: Syracuse just beat Arizona State, so they're in.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, obviously Wichita State is, I think, going to beat them in Illinois. Illinois beat Marshall 91-74 or something like that.
So yeah, definitely Wichita State.
Now watch Marshall make us all look really stupid.
Oh yeah, but Wichita State, West Virginia, that's a good matchup because I feel like that's more than a player's matchup. That's also a coach's matchup.
Yeah, that's a low-scoring game. I think that's like a 39-36 final score type.
Definitely. But who do you have there? I have West Virginia.
I also have West Virginia.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. It's just that was my problem with picking Cincinnati. I just don't feel the American Athletic Conference is that strong. With the AAC, I feel like that's a 3-person league. So it's tough to pick them, even with Cincinnati, but that's why I have West Virginia winning there. The next game is Florida versus St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure won that first 4 in-game. They look good. I actually watched a little bit of that game versus UCLA. They have very dynamic guards. They run, and their guards didn't play that well, but they just played very good defense. They didn't shoot the ball well. They have Jalen Adams in the backcourt, who's a really good player. But I just feel like I'm going to ride with the Bonnies, and then Florida's going to come out of nowhere and just steal one.
Yeah, I've got St. Bonaventure winning against Florida, right, in this matchup. I'm just riding the wave. I'm just riding the wave right now.
Yeah.
Why not, huh? Well, they looked good, man. They looked really good last night. I watched some of that game, and I'm not very impressed, really, at the end of the day by UCLA. But,
not at all.
Oklahoma State probably should have been there. We could have that conversation, of course, but some other team than UCLA, maybe. I got a friend of mine that'll probably kill me for if she hears me say that. But I like Florida a lot. I think they're another kind of Arizona-esque team in sense of their athleticism and their they get up and go and they play good defense. So I've got them going on and playing Texas Tech and even beating Texas Tech.
Wow, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I actually haven't heard someone do that. A lot of people are picking Florida just to fizzle out, just because they haven't been playing.
I also have St. Bonaventure beating Texas Tech for what it's worth.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I love.
Oh, really? That's a big one there. That's a huge upset.
Yeah. So okay, wow, Zach. Why do you have Bonaventure beating Texas Tech?
There's always one team I feel like that goes on a little like Cinderella run, and I just had to pick one. So that's who I'm riding with for now.
Yeah, the other reason I picked Florida is because sometimes those teams have a player. St. Bonaventure might be one of those. I don't know their roster good enough, but there were certainly some players that stepped up last night. But sometimes a team like Oklahoma, getting ahead of the game here, but with Trae Young, they have that one guy who's like, or Jalen Brunson in Villanova. I'm not going to let you lose. This team isn't going to lose because I am that good. And Chris Chiozza to me for Florida is kind of that guy. So in some ways, I'm going with Florida because of that one player. But anyway.
Yeah. I can see it. I just don't know if it will happen. So that's why I went with St. Bonaventure there. Arkansas and Butler. That's another kind of a coin flip. I went with Arkansas. Butler, I feel like hasn't been that impressive. They beat Seton Hall in that little buzzer beater in the Big East tournament, but they just didn't look good afterwards. And I feel like Arkansas has the guard play necessary, which is one thing I think is necessary to win. And then they have like a lottery pick big man, I believe. His name's Gafford. He's just super long, bouncy, long, and I just feel like Arkansas will grind this one out over Butler. But Butler certainly has the guards to compete too. I'm just not sure.
Zach, where are you at with Butler?
Okay, so I think Butler is underseeded. I think they should be, honestly, about a 7. I've heard people debate this on SportsCenter or whatever. I think they're a little bit underseeded. They have a big win against Villanova this year, so they can beat big teams. And they've won at least one tournament game in the last 3 years. So I'm going with Butler, mostly because I'm from Indianapolis, and I love me some dogs. And so, yeah, I'm riding with Butler on this one.
Okay. Eric,
I am going with Butler. I lived in Indianapolis for a little while in the Broad Ripple neighborhood. I got a soft spot for Butler. I taught there for a couple of years as an adjunct, and I guess if I had a second favorite team next to Illinois, it would probably be Butler. Having said that, they're not going to get past Purdue, so I can't let my heart get away from me too much there.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's certainly the Arkansas-Butler matchup is a coin flip, but I think we can all agree Purdue is going to beat whoever comes out of there.
Yeah.
Yep. Assuming they get over Cal State Fullerton, right? But
I should laugh. Maybe that's a serious thing.
Maybe that's
every now and then a 15 might threaten, right?
Yeah,
I mean, is that what happened to Michigan State? Was Middle Tennessee a 15?
Right. I think that's what happened when everyone picked up.
Lose to 15 too with Jabari Parker.
Oh yeah, I think it was like Mercer or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's been done.
Yeah, that was the year where I think they lost Jabari Parker, and then they had Austin Rivers, who actually isn't that good, but they lost to, I think it was Lehigh or something like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I actually have Texas Tech beating Purdue. I know, Zach, you didn't get there with you picked the Bonnies.
Yeah, so I've got Purdue in the Elite Eight then.
Right. I have Texas Tech in there.
Yeah, I have Purdue beating Florida and moving on to against Villanova, and Villanova winning that one.
Man, I hate Villanova. But they're just so hard to pick against, but I hate them. And I just don't want to pick a team that I hate. And
not only because Jalen Brunson should have gone to Illinois.
Oh, yeah.
I hear you.
Another episode. But I think that concludes that. Do you guys have Villanova coming out of there?
I do, against Purdue.
Yeah, me too. And Eric, do you have Villanova coming out?
I do. I have Villanova beating Purdue.
Okay.
Only because I just I don't know. I mean, Matt Painter, I'd love to see him prove that he can take a team as talented. It's kind of like that Maryland team a couple of years ago that was so good and just fizzled. And I just think Turgeon, people. I mean, the guy has forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. I get that, but I just don't think ultimately he's that great of a coach. And I feel like maybe Painter is in that category. Boilermaker fans are going to kill me now.
Definitely.
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope they beat Villanova. Honestly,
I do too.
But on to the Midwest, and we have Penn over Kansas, right? That's a talk.
I don't know why that's getting buzz. Why is that a thing?
Is that actually getting buzz?
There's people that I go to school with that are picking Pennsylvania over Kansas, and I don't understand what the deal is.
No, I mean, talk about having that one. They got more than one player, but they've got DeAndre Graham. He's not going to let them lose in the first round. It's just not going to happen. He could be out there by himself, and he will not lose that game.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. So Kansas, I have going, let's just save time, I have them into the Elite Eight. Getting through that section pretty easy. That's a pretty nice section for them. Seton Hall, NC State. I have NC State.
I have Seton Hall.
Oh, really? Okay. What about you, Eric?
That was a tough one, but I took NC State.
Yeah, just
better conference.
For me, right? It was better conference. NC State beat Duke and Carolina. Seton Hall, they have the pieces, I think, so I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, it's an 8-9. It's a toss-up. Not going to kill my bracket either way.
Right. That's right.
Agreed. Eric, or I think the Yahoo guy, Eric Davis, is that his name? Or Brad Evans. He was saying that Seton Hall.
There we go.
Seton Hall's like that pretty girl that screws you over. But let's go to Clemson, New Mexico State. I think everyone's picking New Mexico State.
Is that your bracket?
That one.
I am picking New Mexico State, and I am taking them on to Sweet 16. I'm not going to. I reluctantly gave Bruce Pearl a win in the next round just because it's a 4-13. I do not want to see Bruce Pearl win anything, but I'm taking New Mexico State over Auburn, and then Kansas will end up
that's what I
killing Cinderella in that one.
New Mexico State's the pretty popular pick here.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
It actually looked pretty
And
good.
another team Illinois played, right? Illinois played and almost beat.
What happened to that? Was that an inbound one?
That was another inbounds issue.
Oh.
That was a really late night
a
game,
couple
wasn't
other
it?
things.
I remember that. Or no, that was the UNLV, I think, Zach.
Oh, okay, yeah, they played New Mexico
Coast.
State at the United Center, right?
Yeah, they did. They played them at home, and I luckily I didn't watch all that game. I remember I was at a friend's. We were having a Christmas party, so I was distracted. And then when I found out what happened, but anyway, New Mexico State has some other really good players, and
they do.
Solid teams. So we'll see.
Definitely. So I have them against Kansas. Obviously, Kansas beating them. TCU versus I think you said it's Syracuse now at this point.
Yes.
I have TCU. Syracuse shouldn't even be in this tournament, in my opinion.
Well, remember when we said that a couple of years ago? I think it was also, and they made it to the Elite Eight or the Final Four or something. Right. So be careful, man. I mean, Jim Boeheim, right?
Yeah,
he's a master.
Yeah, he is. But I don't know. I think TCU is a little banged up. I think they're missing their main guy, and this is like their first time in the NCAA tournament. So I'm not sure about this one. This is another coin toss. I just picked TCU because I don't really like Syracuse. This is more of a personal vendetta for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with that there. Michigan State versus Bucknell. That's chalk. Michigan State.
Yep.
And then Michigan State, I have them beating TCU.
Same.
Going down to Rhode Island, Oklahoma. Do you guys think Oklahoma should even be here?
Not a chance.
Right.
That is, that's an interesting debate. And no, not over someone like Oklahoma State, I think, who was better. I saw Dick Vitale go off on that. Completely agreed. I think it's right. It's kind of his argument was, of course, if you're going to have Oklahoma, you have to have Oklahoma State too. And he made a great case for why. And I would just simply say Oklahoma State should have replaced them, but they have Trae Young, so very hard to go against them. So I'm going with Oklahoma.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you've got that. Now why wouldn't I do Alabama because they've got Colin Sexton? Well, I don't know, but I feel like Trae Young. I'm not. I don't know about Rhode Island. Good, very good team, very well coached. I know, but Oklahoma also well coached, has that Illinois connection. I like that, Lon Kruger. And they were so good early on, so you just got to think maybe they'll recapture some of that.
Yeah. I was listening that once teams in the Big 12 got used to Trae Young, that's where the whole struggle started. And that's the toughness for Rhode Island because Rhode Island's only seen film of Trae Young. It's hard to, game plan for a kid when you've only seen film for him. All these other Big 10 teams or Big 12 teams that they struggled against. Actually saw him in person, actually saw him play, actually scouted him. So we'll see. I think that's another coin toss. I can see Trae Young just, 40 points, 10 threes. I can see that happen. But I think I have Duke beating whoever comes out of there.
Yeah, I do as well. Which
leads us to the Duke-Michigan State.
Oh, awesome
battle. Yeah, that would be a great one. That's a Final Four rematch from a few years ago, I think.
What do you got there, Zach? What do you guys have?
I've got Duke over Michigan State.
Really?
Although I do think if anyone has the fortitude to shut down Marvin Bagley, it is Michigan State with their down low. But Marvin Bagley is just a freak of nature, and I like this Duke team. Even though I hate Duke, this team's good. But they did lose in the ACC tournament to UNC, so not coming in on a high note, but I still have them advancing past Michigan State. And Illinois has more wins versus tournament teams than Michigan State does.
I saw that.
So
there you go. Yeah.
I have Michigan State. The depth, the length of Jaren Jackson, and the shooting of McQuaid, and if Langford's making shots, I think this team's just very hard to beat. So I picked Michigan State, even though I could certainly see Michigan State losing to TCU. They're that kind of team where they can lose to anyone. You just don't know who's going to show up. They had issues beating Wisconsin. And I know Wisconsin beat Illinois twice.
And they had issues beating Illinois, too. Illinois hung with them
for a half, right?
Yeah, for a half, exactly. So
Right.
it's not all smooth.
Yeah,
sailing.
this is going to be so much fun to watch, and it was really a difficult, call to make. With you, Zach, I don't really ever want to go or pull for Duke, just because of an anti-blue blood kind of mentality. Coach K, though, is a great coach. He's got a amazing roster. You mentioned Bagley. Same with Izzo, though, right? And I think Michigan State is a little bit deeper. And it's, I love Tom Izzo as a coach in general. And so I'm kind of going with my heart, and what's otherwise an incredibly, even matched type of game. And I'm really hoping Michigan State, emerges from there and then just beats the hell out of Kansas.
Yeah, that's what I picked, and I actually picked Michigan State beating the crap out of Kansas. Kansas didn't have a good year, to be quite honest, but they won the Big 12 tournament. They lost to just random teams.
I don't know why they're number one, and people are down on Xavier saying they're the weakest number one. I don't agree with that. But,
no.
But Kansas, I do not understand why they're number one. Duke should have been in number one, or maybe even Michigan State. But
I agree.
Yeah.
So that concludes that bracket. We all have Michigan State, or Eric and I have Michigan State.
Yeah. So I've got Kansas versus Duke in the Elite Eight, and I have Duke beating Kansas. Kansas is like the first one seed in a while that I just feel like I don't know enough about.
Right.
And that's not usual for me with Kansas. But they don't have that top 5 NBA prospect like they do some years, with Andrew Wiggins or Josh Jackson, et cetera. And they don't have anything that really catches your eye immediately. So I haven't really paid attention to them as much as I would have liked to this year. So I have Duke winning that, the Midwest.
Yeah, Kansas has a senior guard in Graham, who's outstanding, but I don't know, Azazubuike, their big guy in the middle, he's been injured. I don't know if he's back or if he's going to be back.
I think he's questionable.
Okay. And full disclosure, I do have Duke in my second bracket that I'm not talking about here. winning the whole thing. So
that's very fun. I have 2 brackets. I have my bet bracket, the one that I'm being a little bit more safe, and then my gut bracket, the one that I'm following the stomach.
Yeah.
But
I'm going for my gut bracket with us here today. So
yeah, this is my bet bracket just to be safe.
Okay.
But my Western side, just to conclude our little talk here, we start with Xavier. Obviously, Xavier's going to beat Texas Southern. That's a given.
Yep.
And then the game that no one wants to watch in Missouri, Florida State. No one wants to root for Missouri.
I have them going. I have them winning the game, though. So.
Right, but I do too, unfortunately. Konzo gets his win here.
That makes me mad almost.
Yeah, I don't care what happens in that game.
You know what? I am not going with Missouri. I'm going with Florida State. I like Florida State. First of all, they're a very athletic, long team. I like that style of play. A lot of fun to watch. Missouri, for all the reasons, as an Illinois fan, I'm not real high on. I don't hate Quanzo Martin personally. I don't agree with all the Illinois fans that hate on him and don't think he would have been a very good coach, because I think he's got some. But I'm looking at this injury report thing, and it's not just injuries, but you got C.J. Roberts out for the season with a left knee. Cullen Van Leer, he's got a knee. He might play Friday. Jordan Barnett, legal problems. Jordan Geist, illness, probable for Friday. Terrence Phillips, suspension, out for the season, and Blake Harris left the team. I mean, that is so. Unless Michael Porter, is in full fighting form, I don't see Missouri being a favorite in that one for sure.
That's a lack. Florida State's been struggling. That's sort of the reason I picked it. I thought maybe I didn't know about all those injuries. Actually, I thought maybe with the week off, Michael Porter might be a little bit more assimilated.
Well, the Don Best injury report. Don Best is a great resource where you can run through that and see who's injured.
Yeah. But I don't know. The thing about Konzo Martin is if he was Illinois' coach right now, everyone would love him.
Right,
no
for sure. Yeah.
Any of that stuff about
Yeah,
him.
I don't think he'd have Michael Porter Jr. either. I know he was out for the year, but to get him back at this time still is a boost. But Eric, I'm rooting for your bracket on that game because I'd rather Missouri lose than win that game.
What did you say, Zach, about Michael Porter Jr.? What do you think about him at this point?
I just think it's good timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might be the difference. Yeah, I mean, for sure.
This might be his last game as a Tiger.
That's true. Yeah, that's right.
So maybe he plays with but next one is actually, so this is getting some buzz. South Dakota State versus Ohio State. Mm-hmm. I didn't see South Dakota State winning this. I picked Ohio State. What about you guys?
Yeah. For sure.
So
they've just been so good,
Right, and they sputtered a little bit in the Big Ten tournament. They lost to Penn State a couple times, but South Dakota State,
right,
exactly. So and then I have Gonzaga taking that game.
I
have Gonzaga. Yeah, I actually have Gonzaga beating Ohio State.
Yeah, me too.
And then this is the one where I get a little tripped up. I had Gonzaga beating Xavier.
I do as well.
I took Xavier there, but that was a tough one too. I think in my second one, I've got Gonzaga, so I'll stop referring to that. But yes, I love Xavier. I love Chris Mack. He's one of my favorite coaches as well. There's another favorite coach of mine in this region, but I love him. I wrote a piece for Writing Illini. When they were, who's gonna replace John Gross when it was like, okay, this guy's got to go. And Chris Mack, was one of the guys on the top of my list, which was stupid because he's never going to leave that team. But, nonetheless, that was like,
a pipe voice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think with Underwood, he wasn't on my radar because I was like, he's just been at Oklahoma State for 1 year. He's not going anywhere. But so I was incredibly happy with that. But yeah, I love Chris Mack. And Trayvon Blewett, great player. So
definitely. But I just feel Gonzaga, they're always playing well at this time of the year. But it's tough to see because they don't play in that great of a conference.
No,
right.
It's hard to gauge how they've actually been playing of late. Obviously, they have all these W's because they just run through their tournament. They need to up their conference. They need to join
change conferences
or like the Pac-12 even.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe.
Because they're not playing very good teams in there, but they're still so good. So I have Gonzaga beating Xavier.
I do as well. Yeah.
Did you feel the same way as I did?
Yeah, I've got the Zags in the Elite Eight. I'm interested to see what you guys have for the rest of this region. I think we're going to be maybe split, maybe not. I don't know how this is going to go, but
I think so too. I have Houston beating San Diego State. I think they're playing quite well.
I don't, so we're already split.
Wow. Yeah, I've got Houston.
Yeah, I think they're playing really well. That guy in a man bun looks scary.
Gray, I think is his last name.
Yeah,
I know. He's like one of those guys, like I've been saying, he's the kind of guy that's not going to let him lose. But
exactly.
And that worries me against Michigan.
Yeah, that actually worries me against Michigan because I think Houston has the potential to beat Michigan.
I do too.
I think that Montana's a bit of an underrated matchup. Obviously, some people have Michigan going all the way to the finals. I don't, just because I don't have them losing to Montana either, but that's still a tough matchup. Houston's extremely physical. And then if they get through that, they have to play last year's champions in UNC, which I assume you guys have getting to that point. And if they get through that, then they have to beat maybe the last year's runner-up or Xavier. And that's just a tough bill to ask for any team, no matter how well coached they are. So I think Michigan will beat Houston and then lose to North Carolina. That's my take.
Yeah, I have. I'm wild. So I have San Diego State beating Houston, and then Michigan beating San Diego State, North Carolina beating Providence, and then North Carolina Michigan. And I have Michigan versus Gonzaga, and I have Michigan beating Gonzaga. So I got Michigan 4.
That I have heard. That is something. Big Ten champs. Mo Wagner is one of those great, energetic, awesome players, and he's not the only one on that team. Beeline is a great coach. Is a Big Ten, fan in general. I watched a ton of Big Ten basketball, and very impressed by Michigan. I do ultimately have them going down to North Carolina, and then North Carolina and Xavier emerging from that one, which is a gamble, I know, but kind of went with my heart on that one. What about North Carolina? Or I'm sorry, what about Texas A&M and Providence?
That's tough.
I love Ed Cooley. Love him.
Love him.
And I think he'll take it, Texas A&M.
I think he will too. Texas A&M, they started off super well, and then they had all those issues in the middle, the suspensions, injuries, transfers, whatever, and then they sort of stabled the ship. But I love the way Providence is playing. I watched them in the Big East tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They looked great.
Yeah,
I don't think
that
they'll
overtime,
Carolina, but I do think they'll get enough past A&M.
Right.
Agreed.
I think it's tough to pick against last year's champions, though. So that's why I have North Carolina going over Michigan. But
it is so hard after 2005 as an Illinois fan, man, to pick North Carolina to win anything. I get it. I hate it too, but Roy Williams is a good coach, very good coach, obviously. That team is clicking. That is a team that's got a real possibility for the national title.
Yeah, I have them beating Gonzaga. So they're in my Final Four, North Carolina.
Okay.
So then that leads to our Final Fours. Mine is Cincinnati, North Carolina, Villanova, and Michigan State. How about you guys?
I've got Arizona, Michigan, Villanova, and Duke.
Okay.
I got Arizona, Xavier, Villanova, Michigan State.
Wow. So I have North Carolina winning in my match against Cincinnati, and then they lose, unfortunately, to Villanova. But I am most likely going to pick that. I think Eric, you've given me a lot of confidence in changing up some of my picks here. So I'm going to tinker a little bit before I go to bed. And
oh man, you're going to hate me in a couple days, man.
But if it all goes wrong, I'm just going to.
Yeah, it's all right.
Blame me.
I have my
right.
scapegoat. Right.
What about you, Zach? Where are you at on the national title game?
I've got. Oh man, this is going to send shockwaves around the world. I've got Michigan beating Arizona. I've got Michigan in the final game, and I've got Villanova beating Duke. So I've got Michigan versus Villanova in the final game, with Villanova winning it all.
Okay, Eric.
Yeah, Arizona over Xavier, Michigan State over Villanova, and Arizona prevailing in a hell of a fun game between those two high-flying teams.
Oh, wow. Okay. So our champions are minus Villanova. Eric, what's yours again?
Arizona.
And then Zach, you have Nova as well.
I have Villanova as well.
But mine is subject to change.
You only have a few hours left, man.
I do. Wait, when does this lock? Does it lock at
noon tomorrow?
Okay, thank God.
Yeah, you've got till tip-off, basically, or right before tip-off, right?
Okay.
And you guys know Brad Underwood is going to be a guest commentator. So,
yes.
And I think that's tomorrow.
Really? Cool. Yeah, well, gotta participate in the tournament somehow.
Right.
The most representation Illinois had in 5 years. So.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. Me, Eric, me and Zach are very, very downer when it comes to Illini athletics.
Hey, football's trending. Football is
trending.
trending.
That's true. But we're ready. We're wearing a cup.
Yeah.
Well, that's I'm pretty positive in general, and that's why I love writing for Illini and Fansided, because it's just kind of like just get to geek out and have fun. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, Underwood's getting paid a lot of money, and I want to see him, and his staff is too. And I want to see them not only coach well, which I think they can, but you've got to have the recruits. So the recruiting game is what's the missing piece right now. Right. Obviously, I'm no genius for saying that. Everybody knows that. So as long as he starts to get those recruits, man, I think we are going to be flying high. So.
Right. But just one little recruiting tidbit before we end off this episode. The Austrian kid, the new official visitor.
Right.
RG blank. I'm not even going to try to say his last name.
Yeah, don't even try.
Yeah. Do you think that means that Matisse Facile is gone for sure? Do you think that's a sign, or do you think it's more just another recruit and stash guy?
Yeah, I think it's more. I think Matich is leaving. I think he's gone. Personally, I don't. He didn't develop much throughout the year. I know he didn't get a lot of playing time, but he just didn't look like he belonged on the court when he was there. And this kid has a lot more skill, I think, than Bessel does. And so I think he could be a replacement. But I also think Illinois just needs bodies at this point. And so.
Yeah, I don't get into the recruiting game too much. I don't really write about that, except that I'd like to see good recruits come to Illinois. But I try to avoid those constant ups and downs.
Yeah.
So I have no idea, what that means. But I like, what I see from the guy. I guess he's only a year over here. And Underwood identifying people that he thinks will fit into a system. He said right out of the gate, you guys may pay attention to stars, but I don't. If it's a 3-star guy and I like the way he fits into my system, then, he's going to work for us. So I'm still in that early stage with Underwood where it's like, I'm going to trust this guy to know who he wants and who he needs to get. Andre Griffin looks awesome. We've got, some under the radar people coming now that look like they could really be special. So we'll see what he does.
Yeah, for sure, Eric. Again, thank you for joining us on this episode, our only second only episode. So
yeah, I love the first one. It was great. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's where can the people find you online, on Twitter or wherever?
Well, if you want my basketball stuff, the Writing Illini Twitter handle would be the best one. I'm not a brand, so I have a personal Twitter account, but it's might be a lot of stuff a lot of people aren't terribly interested in. So. eBruce112 would be that one, though, if you want to check me out.
Awesome. And Alex, remind the people where they can find you.
You can find me at @ALEX_KYI. Have we figured out a way to differentiate who tweets on the Armchair account? How do you know if it's me? How do you know if it's Zach? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know when you guys are doing that. I mean, Reese Woodcock, he does everything for Writing Illini. If I write anything or post anything, then he retweets it sometimes or something like that. So it always comes from one guy at Writing Illini.
Right. Yeah, but make sure for those listening, follow Armchair Illini. We tweet a lot of just sarcastic, coy,
good stuff.
Thanks, Eric, for coming on. We really appreciate it. That was a good talk.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you. Take care and good luck with the tournament.
Hey,
thank you.
Merry Christmas. All right. See ya.
Take care. And a reminder, you can find me at Zach Leslie Hoops. And that'll pretty much do it for the second episode of the Armchair Illini podcast. Again, thank you to Eric Bruce from Writing Illini for joining us. And again, you can follow them at Writing Illini. And Alex, it's been a pleasure, man.
All right. See you next time.
All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you on the flip side.